We've got some breaking news from Ottawa. The federal government has just released an independent assessment on potential foreign interference in the 2021 election. It's from a panel of senior public servants who worked with national security agencies to compile the report. The CBC's Rafi Boudjikanian joins us again from Ottawa with the details. So Rafi, did the panel find any indication of foreign election interference in the 2021 election?
Andrew, the big headline here is that though there may have been foreign interference, it did not interfere in Canada's ability to hold free and fair elections. Now, that's not to say that national security agencies were not worried. In fact, the report specifically cites concerns by CSIS, Canada's spy agency, of interference by the Communist Party of China, saying that China did try to exert its influence by scaring members of the Chinese community in Canada, by trying to influence candidates within the election, but that it wasn't successful in fact in influencing how votes were held in the country. The report also points out that this is actually pretty difficult to gauge. For example, it says that members of diaspora communities in Canada may well want Canada to have good ties with their countries back home, and so therefore they may want to vote a certain way on purpose without any actual interference by a foreign actor. What's more, that the influence may be coming from proxy agents. So again, it's just very hard to actually detect. Nevertheless, the panel has come to the conclusion that any interference that may have happened did not actually end up influencing the Canadian election in 2021. This is a similar conclusion to what the panel came to about the 2019 election. Now, of course, all of this is coming as allegations are swirling in the media over the last few weeks. The Globe and Mail has published a series of articles alleging that Beijing was trying to interfere in the 2021 general election. Global has published a story about how China in 2019 was trying to have a sympathetic candidate in the Liberal Party that year. All of this, of course, has led to the calls for a public inquiry into election interference by both the Conservative Party of Canada as well as the NDP. So far, the Liberals have resisted these calls. Unclear at the moment if this report will sway anyone either way, Andrew.
And then just, Rafi, just the political conversation has happened around this from the Prime Minister, from Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the opposition, before the release of this report. I'm sure we'll continue to hear from them in the hours and days ahead. But tell me, is what we're reading here different from what the Prime Minister has been saying in recent days about these allegations, that in fact the election result was what it was, and that it didn't change because of these allegations that there was interference?
No, the broad strokes are really similar to what the federal government has said, that there were attempts at foreign interference, but that Canada's integrity held throughout the election campaign, and that interference was unsuccessful. This report was authored principally by Maurice Rosenberg, who is a former deputy minister of both Liberal and Conservative governments, but that is something that has caused the Conservative Party to allege bias because of Rosenberg's previous ties to the Liberal government. So again, not sure if the report coming out today and spelling out that the interference was unsuccessful will end up swaying the opposition. We'll have to keep watching for that.
Rafi, thank you. That is the CBC's Rafi Boudjikanian in Ottawa. So for more on this, we've reached Dwayne Bratt. He is a professor of political science at Mount Royal University, and he joins us from Red Deer, Alberta. So, Dwayne, what's your reaction? This just came out, so I know you haven't had much time to read this, either have we, but what's your reaction to this independent assessment? I'll just read the key line here. that during the 2021 general election, the panel did not detect foreign interference that threatened Canada's ability to have a free and fair election.
That is true as far as it goes, but they had a very narrow mandate. And when you start to read the report, you realize how narrow it is. Their jurisdiction was exclusive to the writ period. So nothing pre-writ, nothing about nomination races, and nothing that deals with the mandate of Elections Canada, such as funding, campaign financing. One of the allegations that is being raised is that the Chinese government laundered donations through the diaspora community to candidates. That wouldn't be covered under this panel, nor would, as I said, nomination races or anything that occurred prior to the actual campaign. And so the scope is just so narrow, I don't think we can say definitively that no foreign interference occurred.
So what does this mean about the results of the 2021 election? Or what could this mean?
We still have the same questions. So the report repeats, or at least the Prime Minister has been repeating what's in the report because he's seen it before, saying, that there was attempted interference. The interference did not meet the threshold. It did not work. And he is correct as far as that goes. But because this panel was so restricted in what they could look at, I don't think we can definitively say that there was no significant foreign interference. And I do think we still need an inquiry.
So in your opinion, then, does this report in any way kind of, well, I'm guessing what you're going to say is that it's the questions are still there. Are we anywhere new?
Absolutely. It doesn't answer the key questions that we had, such as intimidation of visa students and seniors to get involved in nomination races for pro-China candidates, because this doesn't cover nomination races. We don't know if the Communist Party of China funded candidates or funded advertising campaigns or information campaigns, because that wasn't part of the mandate. We don't know what occurred prior to the beginning of the election campaign. So this report leads as many questions as it does answers.
So we've heard, is what we're reading different from what we've been hearing from the Prime Minister in recent days over these allegations that the 2021 results
were free?
No,
I don't think that's true. I think the Prime Minister has repeated what's in this report, but he failed to acknowledge the significant gaps in what this report could look at. So you need to go well beyond the press release and start to look at the caveats that the report says. For example, after 2019, they strongly recommended that they be allowed to look at the pre-writ period, and the government didn't do that.
And why is that? Why is that all problematic? And what do Canadians who are watching who are just like, okay, wait a second?
Elections don't begin 35 days before the vote. There is a significant period of time, sometimes weeks, sometimes months, well before that campaign kicks in, that we're actually in campaign mode. And so many decisions are made prior to that we need to do a further investigation.
So what do Canadians do with listening to you and with so many unanswered questions? What do they do with the results of the 2021 election in terms of their faith in our institutions?
That's a really tough question. And the very fact that you're asking that is a justification for a full public inquiry into this, because there were allegations after the 2019 election. There were even more allegations after the 2021 election. And the current system that we have to determine thresholds of foreign interference are simply not good enough. And we need something that addresses all of the concerns that I've just raised.
Dwayne, we appreciate you doing a quick read on this. I know there will be more questions on it in the hours and days to come. We were going to talk about the Alberta budget, but we
This is really important.
It's really important.
Andrew, this is really important.
Dwayne, thank you. Dwayne Bratt, a professor of political science at Mount Royal University.